Hi friends, a very pleasant good evening and welcome to Oliveboard. I hope all of you are doing really great and you are doing your preparations very effectively. So this particular session that we're going to be having today is going to be regarding your IFSCA Grade A 2023 preparation. Right? So can you all hear me properly? Am I visible to you all? Am I visible? Is everything fine? Just if you can just give me a quick thumbs up in the chat section. Okay, I can see people there live. I hope you can hear me properly. Everything is fine. Okay, fine. So today's session that we're going to have is specifically going to cater to your IFSCA Grade A 2023 preparation, right? So I see many students confused about how one can prepare for IFSCA exam, right? So this is a major confusion, and the students belonging from the banking category, that means banking aspirants or RBI aspirants, or I would say even SEBI aspirants, they're not very sure as to how one needs to proceed further, right? So this session today that we're going to be having is going to deal with that particular concern of these students, right? And I want all of you to make sure that you understand the entire strategy. We will be breaking the syllabus down into simple components, okay? And that's how it's going to be effective for all of you. So I can see, hi Rahul, thank you for a cue there that you can hear me properly, right? Okay, so let me start with the session, and your uh, others can join in later, right? So firstly, here the agenda of this particular session that we're going to be having today is going to be such that first we are going to discuss important timelines. Okay, see, it's very important for you to know how many days do you have in your hands for your preparation, right? Without that, it's not going to be possible for you to plan your entire strategy. Fine. So the first thing is timelines that we are going to be dealing with. Okay. The second thing is we are going to look at the pattern. Now, the pattern of IFSCA exam is very tricky, but at the same time, it is aceable if you know what needs to be studied and what are the components that you can leave, right? So, a very well laid out strategy is something that we're going to be looking for today, right? The next thing is, once we have a look at the phase one pattern, the next step is going to be to infer important points from that particular pattern, and then how to approach phase one. Okay, so that's going to be really, really important for us. The other thing is we are going to be looking at the phase two pattern, which is very important again. Then we will see what are the important points that you need to infer from the phase 2 pattern, okay, and what is your approach towards preparing for phase 2 examination, right? And at the end, we're going to be seeing the study plan. So this is going to be very important for us, wherein we will have a look at the study plan, okay. The next thing is the important dates. Okay, so we need to know that 15th March 2023 is the last date for us to apply for this particular examination, and we are expecting phase 1 exam to be held in April 2023. Initially it was tentative date, right? You can it was expected in April or March, but since the last date to apply for the examination has been extended, that's the reason we are expecting it in April. The phase 2 examination is going to be expected in April and May, right? We'll have some 20-25 days in between. After that, we have the interview stage, and the dates will be intimated for the same, right? So without further ado, let's have a look at the timeline. As I told you, this is of prime importance for us. The timeline, how do we need to study and how many days do we have in our hands? Okay. The first thing is, today it's 14th March 2023. You have one other day to apply for your examination, right? You can see it's 14th March and 15th March. Tomorrow is the last date to apply for the examination. right? After that, we are expecting the exam to be held on, say, 10th of April. Let's just keep a tentative date so that we can put up a study plan for ourselves. Okay. After that, we have an idea that within the next 21 days or so, we'll be having our phase 2 examination of IFSCA, right? Now, this is how many days that we have in our hands, and now the detailed study plan that we are going to take up is going to be related to this particular timeline, right? Okay, so here we are going to have 25 days in hands before we have our phase 1, which is again tentative because we don't know the dates of the examination yet. Okay, so it's going to be 10th of April. That's what we have taken. So starting from 14th of March. Now again, I'm assuming that you're starting your preparation from tomorrow, okay, or from today rather. And keeping that in mind, we have approximately 3.5 weeks in our hands for the preparation, right? So now what do we do? 25 days detailed preparation strategy. Okay. Now let me just, understand one thing here regarding IFSCA. I have seen a lot of concerns among the students with respect to, say, A. First, they think that, they are not RBI aspirants. They are not SEBI aspirants. So can we go ahead and apply for this examination? Now, the answer for this particular question is yes, you can go ahead and apply for this particular exam because the kind of the pattern that they have given is such that there are so many general pointers out there. There are so many new chapters which you can actually take a day or two, understand the subjects or topics under it and study for yourself, right? So that's what we're going to be seeing today in the strategy session. The second section of students, if you are preparing for any of the regulatory exams like RBI or SEBI, then obviously there is an edge for you. There's an advantage because the syllabus does overlap. Okay, so that pointer is going to be in your favor. So I would say if you are someone who is a regulatory aspirant, then don't worry. Few of the chapters you have already done. So the other things I'll tell you what and how you need to complete those things, right? Okay. Now here, as I told you, there are 3.5 weeks that we have in our hands. Fine. So what we will do is 2 weeks, week 1 and week 2. Okay, you need to prepare for both phase 1 and phase 2 examination. That's very, very important for us. The reason being, phase 1 is just qualifying in nature. The marks that you score in phase 2 and interview is going to be taken together to prepare the final list, right? So week 1 and week 2 will see a combined preparation. Okay, the next thing is the last week that we have in our hands plus 2-3 days extra. During this time, what you need to do is focus completely on phase 1, right? So that is how the entire thing is going to be structured. Fine. So this is the study plan which I will be discussing at the end. Okay, so this is how your week 1 is going to be looking like. Okay, this is how your week 2 is going to look. Fine. And this is how your week 3 is going to be like. Now, I'm not going to go and tell you the topics right now because you're not going to understand it unless and until we move forward. We have a look at the pattern first, okay? And then we understand the breakup of the important topics which is given in the pattern. That is very important. Once you see the pattern of IFSCA, there are many things that you would not be able to infer for yourself, right? So we will break it down for you and let's see how that goes for us, right? Fine. Now the phase 1 pattern that you can see on your screen. Let me break it down for you. Let me make you understand how one needs to go ahead with this preparation, right? Very simple. You have 2 papers. You can see clearly, right? You can see each paper is for 100 marks, right? The time that you are given for each paper is 60 minutes. One other thing that you need to note here, which is not there for RBI or Nabard or SEBI for that matter. This is a very important pointer, which is the cutoff. You have paper-wise cutoff here. Okay, so what each student needs to understand is, in case you're someone who has prepared very well for paper 2, for example, okay, and you haven't prepared for paper 1, there are chances that you might not clear, because if you don't clear this minimum cutoff in paper 1, they would not take you ahead. Okay, so you need to score at least 30 here in paper 1, you need to score at least 40 here in your paper 2, and the combined marks is 40 percentage. Okay, that means it should be 80 out of 200 marks in total, right? So let me just make you understand one other pointer here. See, we need a total of 80 marks. Okay, the paper is qualifying in nature. They have already informed us that you need to score 80 marks for you to clear the phase 1 or the prelims of IFSC exam, right? The next thing that you need to know is 30 is minimum marks that you have to score. Okay, 40 is the minimum marks that you have to score in paper 2. So we already have 70 marks of requirement, and we know the split also, that 30 marks comes from paper 1, 40 marks comes from paper 2, right? So we need 10 marks extra. Now where are we going to pull in that 10 marks from? We would suggest you need to aim that 10 marks from paper 1. I'll tell you the reason, okay, why I'm saying that you need to pull in those 10 marks from paper 1, because let's go back to the pattern again. Now see the pattern here. If you look at the pattern, the paper 1 pattern is quite simple, and the difficulty level of the examination is not going to be a concern. It's not going to be that difficult for us to ace this particular section. Okay. The next thing is paper 2, right? Now, if you look at paper 2, there are so many topics which are not even organized together. Okay, it's kind of a very general pattern that you observe here. MCQs on general knowledge, current events of national and international importance. So they have not given us specific, boundaries within which we can play. Though we will try to categorize this entire pattern into categories, okay, and you can learn based on that, whichever is your strength. But I would highly recommend that you try getting that 10 extra marks from your paper 1. Okay, now we'll see how are we going to prepare for this particular exam. Okay, so very plainly put, if I would say, quantitative aptitude section, right? You will have to aim for 12 to 15 out of 25 marks here. Okay, we can expect 1 or 2 DI here, right? We can expect 7 to 10 marks from the arithmetic section. Okay, and the other topics are also going to be there. So what you will have to do is you have to play smart. The level is not going to be tough. If you have attempted SEBI, you would know that they don't keep the level tough. Okay, and getting total 30 marks, which is the minimum cutoff from paper 1, is not going to be a tough job for us. But what are we doing? We are aiming for 40 to 45. Have a look at this. Why are we aiming for 40 to 45? Because the sole reason is the aggregate cutoff for us is nothing but 80 out of 200, and as I told you, our intention should be to gain that extra marks from paper 1. So I'm not going to be aiming for 30 out of 100. For our safer side, we will aim something between 40 to 45. Okay, so can I get a thumbs up or a yes in the chat section if you're able to understand this particular piece? Are you able to understand why are we aiming for 40 to 45 out of 100 in the paper 1 that we are discussing here? A quick yes or a thumbs up in the chat section would help me know that this point that we are discussing is clear for us. Okay, let's move to reasoning now. If you talk about reasoning, the aim that we are having for reasoning section is going to be 12 to 15 marks out of 25, obviously, right? Here also, you don't need to be, worried about how do you get these 12 to 15 marks. It's going to be very simple for us, okay? Puzzle and seating arrangement, okay? And other topics that are going to be there are given here: syllogism and reverse syllogism, direction sense, coding, decoding, inequality, blood relation. It's not going to be tough, so we are sticking with the basics here. That's very important for us. Okay, so out of these sections that you see here, aiming for 12 to 15 marks is going to be easy, provided you know your strengths and weakness in the paper. You should be very confident as to what are my strengths, what are my weaknesses. If not, please note them down because it's going to be very, very important. Okay, fine. The next thing is English. Okay, English is again going to be your easy section. And again, you'll have topics like reading comprehension, error detection, clause test, some miscellaneous topics. So it's going to be like the usual paper that you give for QRE. Fine. One small point here is you also need to be clever enough to juggle between the sections. That means if you're very comfortable in, say, quantitative aptitude, don't aim for 12 to 15. Aim for a good 18. Okay. If you're very comfortable with reasoning, stretch yourself. Okay. Because you don't have section wise cutoff. It is very important for you to understand the difference between paper wise cutoff and section wise cutoff. When I say paper wise cutoff, it's paper 1 together you need to score a minimum mark, and for paper 2 you need to get minimum. But within paper 1 and paper 2 there is no such thing which is called sectional cutoff. So you can actually play on your strength. Okay, if you're very good in English, try to solve all the questions in English. Okay, so nobody's stopping you. Why haven't you scored well in quant or reasoning? Because there is no sectional cutoff like how we have in RBI or how we have in Nabard, right? So that's one advantage for us. It's just like SEBI here. Okay, the next thing that you see here is general awareness. Okay, general awareness section, I would say, okay, the first point, I don't want you guys to spend more time in this particular section. I know this might sound a little off track because mostly people say GA is the key. GA is the key for exams like RBI Grade B to clear the phase 1, right? Here you just need to understand they're going to ask 25 questions. Okay, there's no definite boundary. The paper is being conducted for the first time, IFSCA Grade A. We don't have anything to look out for. We don't have any example set. Okay, these are the areas from where they usually ask the questions in this particular section, which is the GA section, right? That's how we think. That's the truth actually. So I don't want you guys to sit back and read so many sources or so much piece of information and try getting more marks in GA. No, that is not the right strategy. What are we looking out for here? Phase 1, qualifying in nature, right? You also have other sections here in paper 1. You need minimum 30. We are eyeing for 40 to 45. Okay, you have QRE section. Okay, so what you will have to do is, to be on a safer side, just complete Jan, Feb, March, April, focus on finance sector related news. Okay, so this is how your strategy needs to be. You don't have to be studying day in and day out for this section because the energy that you're putting in, you're not getting equal value for it. Right, so we don't have to do these things here, and therefore monthly capsules we have provided in the current affairs section, which is again finance specific, so that will be taken care of, the important pointers that we need, right? Okay, now coming to paper 2 of phase 1. So we are sorted with phase 1. We have understood that in phase 1, paper 1, what are the important topics, what is our target, okay, 40 to 45 marks. Now we need to understand what paper 2. Okay, so when we saw the pattern, we did see that the minimum cutoff for clearing paper 2 is 40%. So obviously you have your answer, you need to score 40. Okay, so I think there's a problem here. It should have been different, because if you see here, let me take you back. Yeah, so here it is minimum 40, right? So you will have to aim for 40 to, okay, let me just take you there again. So this is going to be 42 to 45 to be on the safer side. Okay, because the minimum cutoff is 40. So let's have it on the safer side where it is 42 to 45. Okay, so pardon me for the mistake here. It has to be 42 to 45. Please don't misunderstand and read it wrong, right? Okay, now let's understand how do we do paper 2 here. See, the first thing is, if you look at the pattern, it's kind of messy. Okay, we don't know clearly how things are lined there. So what we have done is we have divided that into categories. Okay, now once you divide these things into categories, it becomes easy for us to approach them. What needs to be done, what can be left, right? And if you see there are 7 categories, more or less we are going to get obviously 50 questions, right, into 200 marks. Fine, there can be an equal division also, 6 to 7 marks from each section out here or each category. They haven't mentioned it, but usually they keep a very good mix when they mention topics like this. We have seen SEBI also, they don't rely on a particular topic and put all the questions from there. No, that's not how we have seen in the SEBI examination, right? So what we will have to do is category 1, this is more related to current affairs. Okay, so what I would suggest is please cover again Jan to April. This is important for us, right? So category 1, current affairs. Specifically, they have mentioned central government's initiatives and schemes in the finance sector. They mentioned it, right? So we're going to be doing this only. Okay, so this is how we are going to cover category 1. Category 2 is more or less inclined towards ESI. If you are an RBI aspirant, you do know that we have these chapters mentioned in the ESI section of RBI Grade B as well as Nabard Grade A. Okay, so you have these chapters here. They haven't mentioned census and SECC, but I would want you to note this down and cover census and SECC. Okay, the next thing that we have, category 3, is commerce and accountancy. Right, so those who are preparing for SEBI, they would know that we have commerce and accountancy there. Now, one thing again they have done is they haven't mentioned the syllabus. Complete syllabus is not there. The understanding that we have is from SEBI. Okay, the other thing is category 4, management. Again, they've just given management. They haven't listed down the chapter names like they usually do for SEBI, right? So we're going to be keeping SEBI as our base because if you see the syllabus, the pattern is exactly like SEBI. Okay, the way the papers are structured, phase 1, paper 1, paper 2, we have minimum cutoff. Phase 2, we have paper 1, paper 2, again we have minimum cutoff. So all these things are like how we have SEBI exam pattern. Okay, so we can assume to a certain extent that the expectation of the topics or the chapters would be like SEBI. Okay, now the category 5 that we have here is finance. Again, they haven't listed any topics under finance, but we'll have a look at it and you'll be able to understand. Category 6 is costing. Okay, and the last category that we have, this is again SEBI. Okay, and the last category is going to be Indian economy, global economy, and 5-year plans. This is again present as part of ESI. If you are an RBI Grade B aspirant or Nabard Grade A aspirant, you would know this, right? Okay. Now let's understand one other thing here. I've taken this screenshot from the first para of the notification. Okay. Now, if you guys focus on this, let me just advise you to do one important thing. If you read this last line, the IFSC authority has been empowered to exercise the powers of RBI, SEBI, IRDAI, and PFRDA in respect of financial products, financial services, and financial institutions in the IFSC. Right? So, one general tip is please be sure of the basic regulations, at least of these organizations. This is just one quick pointer. Okay, just need to know the basics of this at least. Fine, the structuring, when it was established, and etc. So this is one quick clue here. Okay, Now, I'm not going to walk you through the syllabus here. This is taken from the SEBI syllabus because they've just given this word management. Okay, again, I'm correcting myself. This has to be 42 to 45. Okay, right? So this is management here, management syllabus. You can have a look at it later, but I would advise you to stick to this syllabus, right? It's very direct. Management, leadership, HRD, motivation, communication. That's all. And I would suggest you to complete this because this is something which is easy to cover. And as I told you, this is qualifying in nature. We just need the exact marks that they have given or mentioned in the notification. Okay, so don't worry much here. The next thing is the finance section. Again, we have taken it directly from the SEBI syllabus. Okay, the first thing is complete this financial markets. This is very important. I've marked which one needs to be done first, which one needs to be done second, then third and fourth. Because when you look at the pattern, they've just mentioned finance. Okay, so it's important that you follow this sequence. It will help you to form a thread and you'll be able to complete this particular section. Don't worry, I'll take you back to the study plan. Each week, what you need to do, we'll have a look at it. Okay, this might be looking a little overwhelming right now, but you just need to concentrate and understand the requirement. Only then I would advise you to start studying. Okay, this is costing. You can take a screenshot. Okay, I don't want to go through each point here, but the entire SEBI costing syllabus has been divided into 4 parts, and this is easy. If you want, you can leave commerce and accountancy, but you can do costing. It's theoretical, okay, mostly theoretical, and you can actually score marks here. You can do management, okay, you can do costing, fine. In finance, you can do financial market, as I told you, right? So if you start choosing these things, you will still be able to qualify. Okay, the next thing is here commerce and accountancy. Okay, again, I'm correcting myself in case somebody is joining later. 40 to 45. Okay, so the entire commerce and accountancy syllabus, which is again not mentioned, as I told you, they haven't mentioned it topic wise in your IFSCA notification. Okay, so you have financial statement analysis, you have basics of accounting. If you don't want to study all these things, at least study the part 3, okay, and part 2. At least have an idea. Okay, if you can't, just leave it, don't worry. You have other categories to cover, right? Fine. Now we have completed phase 1. I'll take you to phase 2 right now. Okay, and phase 2, we're going to divide it very neatly into categories, and you should understand what needs to be covered. Phase 2 is going to be more important because phase 1, it is like if you clear the cutoff, you're in. If you get 80 out of 200, you're selected for phase 2. Right? So if you aim for that, no competition there. But here you will have to aim for good marks. Okay, it is not qualifying. The marks that you score in phase 2, okay, it's going to be taken into account for your merit list. This is going to be very important for us. Fine. One other thing I would like to clear here is IFSCA is conducting this exam for the first time. So everybody has a level playing field. Everybody is on the same page. Nobody has an advantage. Obviously, if you're preparing for RBI or SEBI, there is a slight advantage because few section in the syllabus is exactly the same, right? But at the same time, we don't know the kind of questions yet. Nobody knows. So you haven't done any homework, okay? You actually don't know what are the things that you can study as a priority. So all of us are going to do this together, okay? So I would really recommend we have one more day to fill in the forms, that you guys give it a second thought if you haven't filled the form yet, because the exam is a civil, okay? Let me take you to phase 2 now. Okay, before I go to phase 2, one or two of you in the chat section, if you can just give me a cue that you are able to understand, you have noted down the important points, and now you know what you need to study for phase 1, right? Just give me a thumbs up in the chat section or a yes in the chat section. If one or two of you who have been attending the session from the very start can just put that in the chat, it would be really appreciable, right? Okay, so when you talk about phase 2, let me just tell you about two papers that we have. It's very simple, nothing different here from SEBI. The paper one, I would say. Okay. See, paper one, never worry about paper one. Okay. The only thing that I would point out is your speed would matter a lot. Your speed is definitely going to matter a lot because you have only 60 minutes. It's going to make a lot of difference. We will talk about that. Okay. Now, paper 2 that you can see here, right? Paper 2. This is where I want you guys to concentrate. First thing, see the cutoff. Now, you would ask me, what is this cutoff? You need to get minimum. Minimum, you need to get 30. Minimum, you need to get 40. But after that also, you need to at least cross this minimum 40. Okay. I'll tell you why. See, now let me give you a scenario. Example, in phase 2, you have scored 80 out of 200. Now your question would be, will I qualify? It depends. It depends because, see here, candidates equaling 3 times the number of vacancies should be shortlisted in order of merit for phase 3. This point is important, guys. That is where I always say read the notification properly, understand the pattern properly. If you haven't understood the pattern yet, that is where lies the problem because your efforts are in the wrong direction. Okay. For phase 1, very simple. Get 30, get 40, get extra from say phase 1 for now because that's how we have discussed the strategy. Get 80, you're sorted. They'll take you to phase 2. Okay. Now, once you enter phase 2, what happens? Once you enter phase 2, you have competition because they have clearly mentioned candidates equaling 3 times the number of vacancies should be shortlisted for phase 3, which is your interview. So, though they have mentioned that you need 30%, 40%, and 40%, there are chances you might score this and not qualify because you need to be the best because of the shortlisting of the candidates based on the order of merit. I want all of you to understand this point very clearly. Okay. The other thing here is, let me just take you to this slide. Okay. So one very important point. Look at this. Paper 1, paper 2. Okay. So here we have 100, not 100, 50 questions, but 100 marks. Okay. So here we have 50 questions and 100 marks worth of paper to be solved in 1 hour. The paper, the level of the paper is not going to be tough. It's going to be anywhere between, say, a little bit of easy paper to the medium level. It's not going to be of tough level, right? Because you just have 60 minutes. You have to skim through 50 questions. Each question is 2 marks, right? So don't worry about that pointer, right? The next thing is, okay, I am getting a few questions there in the chat. I'll take your question. Just give me a minute, okay? The next thing is there is no sectional cutoff within a paper. So you can play on your strengths. What is the meaning? We already discussed this for phase 1, but let me just walk you through. Now see, look at this particular paper here. Nobody is asking you to score more in, say, union budget or economic survey or banking or capital. It's a mix. It's a complete mix. No sectional cutoff at all. Okay. So if you are good in a particular topic and you see there are more questions from there, it's your day, right? You have already taken an advantage there, right? But that needs to be planned. We'll tell how, we'll just see how we need to do that. Okay. Fine. So here we are, 50 questions, 100 marks. Don't worry, it's going to be easy to medium level, not tough level. Okay. No sectional cutoff here. Within a paper, you can play on your strength. But one other thing I would say is when I say the paper is going to be somewhere from easy to medium, it's going to be factual. Okay, and it is going to test you somewhere that do you know the basics, do you know what it is under IFSCA. Okay, because they need to remove people, they can take only a certain set of people to interview stage. Okay, so paper comparing to phase 1, phase 2 will be tough. That is one point which you need to keep in mind. Okay, phase 1 is going to be relatively easier, but phase 2, yes, they will test you. Okay, the other thing is concentrate more on paper 2 here. Okay, because that's really going to be important for us, because the weightage is different, 1/3 and 2/3 of the weightage, right? We have just seen the pattern. See here, 1/3 weightage, 2/3 weightage. Okay, so concentrate more on paper 2. Fine. Now what you need to do, the last part that we're going to discuss, let me just see one doubt that we have from Mayank Verma. Okay, मैम एसएससी प्लस कॉमर्स बैकग्राउंड से हूँ, आईबीपीएस रीजनिंग क्वेश्चंस के साथ कोलैब नहीं हो पा रहा है, आईएफएससीए का पेपर आईबीपीएस कंडक्ट करवा रहा है, प्लीज रिप्लाई. ओके, सो आई थिंक मयंक दिस इज अ लिटिल आउट ऑफ कॉन्टेक्स्ट एज टू द स्ट्रैटेजी दैट वी आर डिस्कसिंग टुडे, बट वी विल रिप्लाई यू बैक. Okay, don't worry about it, but abhi ke liye let's concentrate on the strategy bit and then I'll come back to your question. Okay, fine. So we have paper 1 and paper 2 here. This is very simple. What you guys need to do, first point, how to write. Format. You'll have to learn the format. Easy. Nothing big thing here. Okay, you learn the format in a day. How to structure essay writing, what is essay writing, essay writing, reading comprehension, right? Very simple, don't worry about it. You're reading so many things that you have the pointers, you need to concentrate on how to write that. Okay, the second point, as I told you, what to write, you already know what to write, so don't worry. Point number 3 here that we have is only 60 minutes duration. As I told you, the speed is going to be playing a major role here. Okay, so based on your speed, it is going to be like a make or break situation, because if you don't complete your paper, it's going to be tough, right? So you'll have to practice, you'll have to type, you'll have to know how to limit your words, limit your answer in the number of words that is given there. Okay, fine. The next part that we're going to deal with is paper 2. This is where I want you to pay attention. When you look at paper 2 pattern, it is really confusing. Okay, and it's like, okay, they've mentioned the topics, but what do we study? Okay, fine, we can see certain topics very clearly, like we have IFSCA Act mentioned, we have gift mentioned, gift city mentioned separately, so it's simple, we can take those things and we can study, right? But it is important that we understand what is there under the broader topics. They're very casually written. Banking, insurance. Okay, when I ask you banking, insurance, there's so much to cover, right? But we don't have to do that. We just need to understand what might be the best possible thing for us to study. Okay, so now this is what we have done here. Your phase 2 paper 2 is structured like this. Okay, let me walk you through. But before that, I want a quick yes in the chat section if you're with me, because before I just take the last section of today's live session, which is the study plan, week 1, week 2, week 3, it is important for you to understand this. If you don't understand this, phase 2 is going to be like a mystery. Right? So just give me a quick yes in the chat section if you're with me, so that I can walk you through this particular structure here and I'll be able to explain why and what are we doing in paper 2 of phase 2. Right? Okay, so I think Nitesh, thank you Nitesh for a quick yes. Okay, Rahul, thank you so much. Thank you Mayank, thank you Duke. Thank you so much for quick yeses out there in the chat section. Thank you Sakshi. You guys are awake. Okay, that's really nice. Thank you. Fine. Let's move forward now. See, the first thing is when you talk about IFSCA, right? The first and the foremost important topic for us is going to be IFSCA Act. Okay, the government brought out this act through which IFSCA was established. Right? Makes sense? So we need to study IFSCA Act in detail. That is one important point for us. From this, we will definitely get questions, right? Because it is about the establishment of IFSCA in itself, right? And they have mentioned it specifically in the syllabus also. Okay? The next thing is regulations. Now, once IFSCA has been established, it has brought out many regulations. Okay, so when it has brought out many regulations, those regulations are dealing with these segments or these domains. Because you remember, I showed you one picture wherein I took a screenshot from the first page of the notification, and it has clearly mentioned that it would have the powers which are vested in RBI, SEBI, PFRDA, and IDI. So they're dealing with these segments in the first place, right? So IFSCA comes out with the regulations for these domains. Now you go back and check the syllabus. You will definitely see this very outrightly. Banking is mentioned, insurance is mentioned, capital market related to SEBI, right? Bullion, pension, PFRDA, everything is mentioned like this. There's a reason why they have mentioned these things. Let me take you back to the syllabus. See here, what they have mentioned, IFSCA Act. Why is IFSCA Act mentioned in the first place? Because the government established IFSCA through an act, right? So obviously we'll have to study this. The examination that you're giving is for IFSCA. You're going to be recruited there, right? Makes sense for us. The next thing is, see this, banking, capital market, insurance, pension funds, bullion, right? Stop it till there. Why are we dealing with these topics? Because IFSCA has brought out regulations in these domains. That is why you are required to study that. So link it like that. Otherwise, if you just see these topics, sometimes it makes no connection. There's no sense that we can form out of this. Right? Okay. Let me take you there. Fine. We were on this section here. Okay. So understand one thing. When I talk about these domains or these segments here, there are two things that you guys need to study. One is obviously the regulations. The other thing is the basics falling under these segments. Okay. Now, why are we studying the basics? A, questions can be asked from the basics, definitely. The second thing is, if you don't know the basics, how will you study the regulations? How will you understand the regulations? Right? So what you will have to do is you will have to study the basics under each domain or each segment, and you will also have to study the regulations. Right? To explain the regulations in detail, they have also brought out notifications and circulars. Not all are important, but few of them are important. So we'll have to cover that as well. Right? IFSCA Act, regulations in these domains, notifications and circulars. To understand the regulations, plus there is a probability that they will test your basic knowledge, you need to know the basics covering these domains that are mentioned here. Okay. The other thing that I want you to look at is gift city, economic survey, union budget. They have mentioned this separately. Okay, IFSCA authority is established in the gift city, so they obviously want you to know the regulations of it, right? So you will study this also. Definitely you will have questions from this. Okay, union budget, economic survey, simple. You're reading it for multiple exams, so I don't think that's going to be a tough job for us, right? Fine. Now, are you all in sync with me here? Have you understood this particular chart here that you can see? The main reason is, if you just blindly look at the syllabus, it's tough for you to comprehend what we need to study. Fine, and don't worry, we have broken this down into all these things. We'll be covering regulations, we'll be covering notification circulars, there are going to be basics covered, everything, IFSCA Act, obviously gift, union budget, economic survey. We will divide it such that it becomes easier for you all. So don't worry in that regard. Okay? Fine. Let me walk you through the examples. What we need to study, right? See, banking domain, है ना? Here, you need to know basics. Now, obviously we cannot mention all the basic topics here, but I'm just giving you an example. Okay, you definitely need to know MPC. You need to know terms related to monetary policy. You need to know what is RTGS, NEFT, IMPS, RBI Act, P notes, many more such concepts. But you don't have to go in depth. Don't do that. We will cover all these things in very short format, so you don't have to worry about it, because don't do a PhD in each of these topics. That's not required, right? But we definitely need to understand the basics of these things. Okay, the other thing that I told you, one is the basics part, okay, and the other is definitely our regulations here. So these are the important regulations when you talk about the banking domain or the banking segment, right? So we will be covering these also, whichever is important for us from the point of view of IFSCA. Okay, the next thing is capital market. Okay, definitely you need to study primary, secondary market, debt and equity market, bonds, derivatives, options, basics. Clear your basics. It might look overwhelming, but it is not. It is very easily doable if you know what to study. Okay, and as I again, as I mentioned at the start, this is a level playing field for all of us. Why? Because this examination is being conducted for the first time, right? So when something is being conducted for the first time, everybody has an advantage. We don't even know what kind of questions were asked, right? Okay, again, the example for basics I have given you there, right? The other thing is the regulations part, important for us. Okay, let's move on. Insurance. Again, when I talk about basics, what you need to understand, basic terms of insurance, okay, types of insurance, principles of insurance, and obviously the regulatory body that governs it, IDI. As I told you at the start also, I've taken a screenshot. You need to study at least the basics of these regulatory bodies, RBI, SEBI, IDI, okay, and PFRDA. Know the structure, know when it was formed. Basic questions can be asked. Okay, so these things plus the regulations that you can see here. Okay, so these are the important regulations. Here obviously it's just a list, we'll be covering it extensively. Okay, bullion related regulations. Here we have two important ones. Okay, don't worry, it's not necessary that you already know these things, because you have to learn these things. It's all related to IFSCA and it's been brought out recently only, so it's not like something we already have and you're preparing for other exams. Everybody is going to be doing this for the first time. Okay, so same amount of energy basically, I would say, or same amount of time is going to be required. Fine. Okay, miscellaneous part you can see here. Fine. Miscellaneous, again, there are certain regulations which we cannot categorize, whether in insurance or banking or bullion, etc. So that comes under miscellaneous here. Fine. Okay. So this is how the entire syllabus is structured. I want all of you to understand this part. That is why I have taken more time in explaining this, because if you talk about phase 1, it is kind of self-explanatory. When you open paper 1, it's very easy, quant, reasoning, English, GA, right? Paper 2 also, I would say we have segregated that into categories so that you know which category to choose. If you are an RBI aspirant, definitely complete management. You already are doing it. Okay, and if you are, and even the ESI related category that I showed you, if you are a SEBI aspirant, do commerce and accountancy or costing. If you are not preparing for RBI or SEBI, there are other categories that you can cater to. As I told you, pick the easy ones. Okay, that is where the smart play is going to help you. Fine. Okay, now what the last segment that we have is the study plan. We have understood phase 1, we have understood phase 2, specifically paper 2. Okay, I don't want you to be confused now. What is the syllabus? Kya aayega? Those questions should not be there in your mind. We know kya aayega. Because at the end, it's all going to be regarding IFSCA. So we do have a queue. We do know for sure what is going to be asked. Okay, fine. The last segment we are entering, which is the study plan. Okay, so now I'll take 5 minutes of your time and quickly discuss the study plan, right? All of you just give me a quick thumbs up or a quick okay in the chat section, right? Are you guys listening? Are you still awake? Because it's going to be the last section for today wherein we will discuss the study plan quickly. A quick yes in the chat section would help me to continue and just give you a quick brief about what you need to do in week 1, week 2 and week 3. Okay? Are you guys there still in the for the last segment that we have? Okay, thank you Rahul for the heads up out there. Okay, thank you Kanchi. Thank you Duke, Rocky. Okay, I can see a quick yes there. Okay, fine guys, let's continue then. Let's quickly check the study plan. See, the first thing that I told you, taking into consideration that we have 3.5 weeks with us, 3.5, so let's keep it 3 for now. Okay, the first week, as I the first and the second week, as I told you, you need to concentrate on both phase 1 and phase 2. The third week exclusively concentrate on phase 1, right? So let me show you this week 1 chart. Okay, so what are we doing? We are preparing for both phase 1 and phase 2, for both phase 1 and phase 2, right? What are we doing next is, in the phase 1 we are completing the Feb and January current affairs. Now again, please listen to the strategy session if you haven't joined us from the very beginning. What are the topics you need to give importance to? We have already discussed that. Okay, we have already discussed that you shouldn't give more time in preparing general awareness. There is a logic to it. What is the logic? 25 questions are going to be asked, right? We need a minimum of 30 there. We are going to pull an extra 10 there, so make it 40. Okay, you have easy topics in QRE, and the amount of study that you need to do for GA is going to be overpowering and overwhelming when compared to the marks that you're going to receive there. Okay, so invest decent amount of time, please. Okay, the next thing is complete category 2. This is the ESI related category in RBI, and complete category 4, management. If you have joined late, let me just do a quick revision. What we did is, the entire pattern we have categorized it. Okay, there are 7 categories and each is linked to some or the other exam. So I can guide you what needs to be done, what you can leave based on what other examination you're preparing for. Okay, so here prepare for the category 2 and category 4. Okay, and in the phase 2 components, what I would want you to do is complete the basics first. Complete the IFSCA Act first. Okay, we'll be updating everything in the coming week, so don't worry, you'll be able to study all the important chapters out there. Complete union budget, complete economic survey, complete these things which are basics. Okay, then you remember what we studied. We studied about the basics and the regulations. Okay, so we'll come to that as well. This is week 2 again, right? In week 2, practice Jan, Feb, or learn Jan, Feb, study them, and practice quant, reasoning and English. Continue. This is going to be continued till the end, right? And again, take category 5, category 6 and category 7. Now, this plan is for those who haven't put up a plan for themselves. Okay, so you can say it's like a scratch start. If you are starting from today, if you have already done, start putting a tick, modify this plan, tweak it based on your requirements. Okay, that's what I would like to say here. And here in week 2, I would want you to cover all these segments. See, phase 2, paper 2, more of fact-based questions. Concepts they would ask, but the weightage of fact-based questions are going to be more, because it's IFSCA Act, about gift city, about so many regulations which are related to these domains which are brought out by IFSCA. So this is going to be more of like, a situation where you need to memorize a few things. Okay, so be ready for that and make sure you're able to do it. Week 3, we'll concentrate only on phase 1. Okay, so week 3 we'll be doing only phase 1, fine, and the rest of the thing you need to cover here, which is mentioned. This is all related to phase 1, obviously. You can maybe take a screenshot and study, revise all the other categories, okay, and practice the mocks because those are very important. It will help you to analyze where you are standing, fine. And the other thing is, please revise at least once before you are ready for the examination. Okay, so revision is going to be a major role, fine, because there are so many topics, and as I told you, fact-based information. Okay, so this is how the study plan looks like. I hope you guys have understood the requirement of the exam, which was the agenda, plus obviously what we have it here. The other thing is, we do have plans to help you out. Okay, we do have a learn plan which covers all these notes that I've mentioned, okay, in the form that you can easily comprehend them. We also have an exclusive only test plan, and there's also a plan which covers phase 2 tests as well. So you just try it out if that suits you, fine. One other thing, we have a separate YouTube channel for regulatory exams, which is RBI, SEBI, Nabard, IFSCA, SIDBI. If you want daily practice questions, you want to watch previous year questions, you want to watch important MCQ series, please go and subscribe to the Oliveboard's regulatory YouTube channel. Even at 7 p.m. we do have a session which is related to IFSCA current affairs. Okay, we will be discussing top 50 current affairs for IFSCA. Okay, and that is going to be on the regulatory channel of ours, YouTube channel. So you can subscribe to that channel and join us in the session. That's going to help us communicate to you on a daily basis, because we do come out with a lot of videos there and live sessions there. Okay, and the other thing is, we also have a Telegram channel. Now, okay, one other thing, if you guys are practicing for IFSCA, we do put 10 MCQs for IFSCA. Okay, it's like a daily quiz, but not every day it is IFSCA. One day it is RBI, one day it is IFSCA, one day it is Nabard. So if you want to see your level of preparation, I would recommend just go and solve those 10 MCQs. Just go and see the news of the day that we are providing. So this is the regulatory body's Telegram channel that we have. Okay, so you can subscribe to this particular channel, and on a daily basis get free material here. News of the day comes at 9, and you have, this is what I'm talking about, the top 10 MCQs for the day. So one day in a week we also cover IFSCA Grade A. Okay, so if you want to test your understanding, if you want to see how far you have come along your preparation, please go and join there and you can see for yourself, right? So we have this YouTube channel where at 7 we have a session, and we also have this Telegram channel wherein you can go and start practicing quizzes for yourself, right? One other information is, if any of you hearing me today live are preparing for RBI Grade B, okay, then on Thursday at 7 p.m. I will be taking one session wherein I will guide you how to score 55 plus out of 80 in GA section. Okay, you guys already know that RBI Grade B, to clear the phase 1 of RBI Grade B, the key section is going to be GA section. If you haven't seen my strategy session, please watch that. You will be able to understand why am I emphasizing on GA section. Okay, 80 out of 200 is GA. So we will be taking care of that. In that session, we will exclusively see how we can score 55 plus. Okay, fine. Thank you so much. And I can see expected exam dates. Let me just... I can see somebody asking me expected exam date. So I'll just take you to the timeline here that we have come up with. We don't know the exam dates yet, but it's expected to be in April. Okay, the phase 1 and phase 2 in April or May. If the exam is in late April, then obviously the phase 2 will be in May. Okay, otherwise both can be in April itself. We never know. Okay, but the last date to fill the forms is still open. It is tomorrow. It is 15th of March. So they revised it, and now it's 15th of March. So by tomorrow you need to fill in your forms. So this is how the timeline looks like if you have joined the session late. Okay, today it is 14th March. Tomorrow last date to apply. We are expecting it in first or second week of April. We are taking it to be as 10th April, for example, and the entire plan that we discuss is based on this tentative date. Right? Okay. So guys, thank you so much for joining in, and I really hope that the session was fruitful for all of you. One other thing is, if you really like the session, please press the like button, okay? And don't forget to subscribe to our Oliveboard's regulatory bodies YT channel as well as the Telegram channel to get regular updates. And see you on Thursday at 7 p.m. wherein we'll discuss how to score 55 plus out of 80 in the general awareness section. Fine. Thank you so much, guys. Have a pleasant evening. And please keep studying. If you haven't applied yet, please apply for the examination. Right? Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you.